YouTube, Google+, Facebook, Twitter. Welcome back to another Throwback Thursdays. Today we're taking a look at Donkey Kong. So let's get this party started. Now Donkey Kong is one of the most fantastic games of all time, at least in my opinion. It's right up there definitely with Pac-Man and up there with greats like Super Mario Brothers, Q*bert, all the really classics. What a fantastic game. The first time that I saw it was, of course, in the arcade myself in the early 80s. I think around 82 I probably saw it. 81, 82, somewhere around there. It's been a long time now. I was a kid. And I also saw it, there was a kid who lived about 3 blocks away, and his father had a ColecoVision, which was another rare thing you didn't see many of back then. Most people saw a lot of Atari 2600s, but when you saw a ColecoVision, it was rare. And so I saw one, played it. The game that he had was Donkey Kong, so I was blown away by how graphically powerful it was back then compared to my Atari 2600. So a very cool memory. And anyways, I want to talk about the history of a little bit of Donkey Kong, of how important it is, and so on. Now our story begins in 1977. Shigeru Miyamoto was hired by Nintendo, and dream job was making toys. He wanted to really make design toys for Nintendo, but Nintendo was exploring a new market of making coin-operated arcade games, and that's where Miyamoto's career was defined. Nintendo's president at the time, Hiroshi Yamaguchi, assigned the young designer to make arcade cabinets and the promotional art for them, for the games such as Sheriff, Space Firebirds, and Radar Scope. And that is where his career really started. Now, the games were doing pretty well in Japan, but when they came overseas, they didn't do so really well. Especially when they brought over 1,000 of the Radar Scopes, which is sort of like a Space Invaders game, if I'm correct. I haven't played it myself, but I think I've seen videos on it. So they brought 1,000. They made 3,000 of the cabinets, but they brought 1,000 over to the United States, and that's all they could sell, and they didn't do well at all. So Radar Scope was failed. Nintendo was really bummed out about it. They were getting close to bankruptcy, and they asked Shigeru Miyamoto if they could help him out, if he could come up with a game, because Yamaguchi at the time believed that Miyamoto, even though he couldn't physically design games, he didn't know really how to design games, that he could do it. And so he asked him if he could do something. So Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to do a game like Popeye. The problem was he couldn't get licensing to do a Popeye game. So he took inspiration from Donkey Kong, from Popeye and King Kong. And as you see, Jumpman at the time, which later on got named Mario, is rescuing Pauline, who's been kidnapped by a big ape. So it has a very similarities to Popeye, such as Jumpman being Popeye, Pauline being Olive Oil, and Donkey Kong being Bluto. So there are some similarities there. And the way he came up with Donkey Kong is the word for stubborn in Japanese, if you're looking to translate to English, is donkey. And then Kong just means big, something big. And so big stubborn monkey is how they came up with it. And so that's how the Kong was created. The game was a fantastic hit. Right away, the American market loved it. And they took the remaining 2,000 Radar Scopes and converted them into Donkey Kong machines. And the game was selling so well that they had to hire more people internally to start making coin-operated games, and it saved Nintendo from going bankruptcy. And it really changed the future and saved and made Nintendo what it is today. And this is how we got characters such as Mario, how Mario was born, because he really wasn't a full-fledged character yet, but people loved Mario in the game, and that's where Mario came from. Now, how Mario got his name was, there was a heated argument way back when they were in New York with the warehouse they rented from the landlord, Mario Segal. Now, they had an argument because they owed lots of back rent. Now, there was a heated argument, but Mario Segal gave them some more time, and it was good he did, because this game took off and it was a big hit. So since he was nice and generous, they renamed Jumpman to Mario after Mario Segal, and gave like a tribute to him. Now we're going to fast forward to 1982, because Donkey Kong's a hit. It has sold for a year now. Done fantastic. Now there is cereals with Donkey Kong. There's some other products showing up. And Nintendo still doesn't have a home console yet, but they decided to license the game to ColecoVision, because Coleco flew all the way to Japan and asked if they could make this game on their system and make it their #1 game, like the main game for the ColecoVision. There's some agreements back and forth. Coleco gets the rights to license Donkey Kong to their system. Now in 1982, at the same time, Universal Studios, they know that this video game business is doing really well, and they really want to get a piece of the market. At the time, their president, Sid Sheinberg, is having people do a bunch of research on video games and stuff, and they come across this game that everybody's playing in arcades, all the kids. It's called Donkey Kong. And first thing he does is realize there's sort of a similarity, at least from what his eyes see, of that to the movie King Kong. And so he decides that he's going to bully all these small companies that have this Donkey Kong licensing into giving them up on the product and giving it to Universal Studios all the money. So first thing he does, he goes to Nintendo and tells them they have to stop all the products of selling of Donkey Kong, and not only that, but any remaining products they have, they basically have to just throw them away, and all the money that they've made, give it to Universal Studios. At the same time, he goes to 6 other companies and does the same kind of bullying tactics. He goes for the cereal company. He goes for some other companies making other things with Donkey Kong, a board game, and so on. So at the time, Nintendo goes to their lawyers and they decide to fight it. Nintendo's attorney at the time, Howard Lincoln, convinced them to fight because he didn't believe Universal Studios had a legal leg to stand on. After the decision between Nintendo and Universal failed, the lawsuit was filed. Now, Universal Studios at the time said that Donkey Kong was very similar to King Kong, a big ape, a girl, throwing barrels down. Nintendo at the same time, on their case, said that there's a lot of differences. Donkey Kong is a comedic, more cartoony, fun monkey, stubborn monkey throwing barrels, and also Kong in Japanese doesn't represent King Kong. It's a term that all Japanese use, representing to mean big, and donkey is stubborn, and they say King Kong at the time is a more serious take. It's a big gorilla who kidnaps a sexy girl, and he takes her up the Empire State Building and starts smashing planes. So there's a big difference between the games, and they bring these arcade games in to the courtroom and show the differences, play it in front of all of the jury and so on. Well, this is going on back and forth in the courtroom. The lawyer that they had, John Kirby, also on Nintendo's side, he finds out that Universal Studios, 8 years prior to this, sued another company, took it to court, because they said they wanted the rights to King Kong, and King Kong hasn't been used in many years, and made it public domain, free public domain. So this means that Universal Studios knew this whole time that they didn't even have the rights to King Kong, that it was made 8 years prior, public domain, so they were just using bullying tactics to try to get all these companies to give them money just for free, and had no legal leg to stand on. So when they found out all this and they took it to the judge automatically sided with Nintendo, called them out on it, told them that they were trying to bully and use all these tactics, and there is definitely no similarities between the products. They're different. Donkey Kong is a cartoon character, and it's many differences. And so Universal Studios continued on 2 more times trying to get the ruling overturned, and failed both times. So they had to pay for the legal fees and all the damages that was caused. And while this went on, Nintendo went on eventually to make a Nintendo Entertainment System. Game was a huge hit, saved Nintendo, and the rest is in the future is what you see today. Now there's been tons of games, everything from Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and all the way up to the newer systems, Super Nintendo, Donkey Kong Country games. So Nintendo, the character of Donkey Kong, is a huge success and saved Nintendo and made them what they are today. We all know how well Shigeru Miyamoto does, and he's still making fantastic games to this day. Their attorney at the time, Howard Lincoln, would go on to become chairman of Nintendo of America. Now, John Kirby did such a fantastic job for him also, they went on to name the character Kirby after him. And they also, not only that, but they gave him a sailboat. From Nintendo, they gave him a sailboat, and on the back of it, it had a name, and it said Donkey Kong. So that was really cool for them to do all that stuff. So this gave Shigeru Miyamoto a chance to become a full-fledged designer. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, that original Mario's name was actually not Jumpman. His actually original name was Mr. Video. But Mr. Video, he realized that Mr. Video wasn't a popular name, so then it changed to Jumpman. And later on, they changed it to Mario, named after the owner that they rented the building from. This game definitely paved the way for Nintendo's future of where we see it today. Now, early in designs, they were thinking of making a Pac-Man style game. And then they added a jump button, which switched the gameplay, and then they added ladders. So they were originally thinking of catching the popularity of the Pac-Man, but then they added the jump button and it changed things, and they added ladders, so the game drastically changed to what it is you see today. I myself have played tons of Donkey Kong games over the years, from the beginnings all the way up. Donkey Kong Jr., even Donkey Kong Math, I played that actually. As terrible as it was, I played it on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And there have been some fantastic ones, such as Donkey Kong Countries, and the one on the Game Boy that I mentioned. So there have been fantastic games over the years. What is your guys' favorite? Anyways, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this Throwback Thursday. And as always, have a good one. Take care.
Donkey Kong cereal. Help! Help! Donkey Kong brand cereal has a sweet, crunchy corn taste. And boy, is it fun to crunch. It's part of this complete breakfast.
Kids, you want to help get Donkey Kong? Give me a crunch. One more.
Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong cereal. Crunchy barrels of fun for breakfast.